has just had an absolute carnage of a Christmas in terms of having bets at Leopardstown. It was just like,
what was it down to? Because it wasn't just yourself. There was WhatsApp groups and all that, basically talking about trading war stories between Stephen's Day and the 3 days that followed, because it was just hideous for everybody.
Yeah, if you followed like Gordon Elliott and Willie Mullins, which would be, you know, basically as safe as anything, as safe as houses, as they say, you may have just lost a fair bit of money because they didn't have particularly good Christmases. Gordon was 2 winners from his first 50. Which is incredible, really. And Boover there at Kempton getting beaten. It was just a bloodbath after bloodbath after bloodbath, and I was glad when it was over.
Right, and yet you've managed to dust yourself down and find your way in here tonight, which is just the sort of character you are.
Just have to get on with it. David Jennings, my Racing Post colleague, he got married yesterday. So you're try to escape racing for a day or two, but then you go to a wedding where like an awful lot of people want to talk about racing.
And where was that on?
It was on in Ballymagarvey.
Where's that?
County Meath. It's kind of near enough to Navan. Stunning venue, and it was great fun. And he got married to the love of his life, Aoife Farrell, and a few of us were planning to do dry January, and I was like, this is not a good start. You know, you're going to a
New
wedding.
Year's Day wedding.
No, I've gone to weddings like and gone on the dry or whatever, and it's not that bad. Like it's obviously a bit of a drag, but like. So we come out of the church and his dad says to me, oh, we're going to a little pub and screen for a couple before the church. And I was like, you're not going to Mrs. O's. This is the pub O'Connell's on the Guinness ad, even for the home, that iconic pub. And,
that's around the corner from the Hill of Tara.
Yeah, it's very close to there.
I've been there, yeah.
Possibly my favourite pub literally in the world. It's so cool. It's old fashioned. People come and go in any sort of garb. Like locals come in, they like to talk about racing. No TV, toilets are outside. Amazing Guinness. Dry January lasted about till 1 o'clock yesterday.
So we're getting real insight into the vices of Johnny Ward in the first 5 minutes of tonight's show, both gambling and alcohol consumption, both of which need to be done moderately and with a lot of sense.
Did you do that moderately over Christmas?
Moderately enough? You have to really when there's a 2 and a 4-year-old waiting to wake you up at 6:30 in the morning.
Just for your own self-preservation. Like.
My carnage, and Richie, I'd say, will back it up, was Lego based, was racetrack based, was the house being in a general tip for about 10 days based.
Eldest being mad into FIFA now. Just
right. Well, at least you can sit down and you can masquerade as it being spending quality time with him.
I've basically
discovered FIFA yourself.
I've discovered how rubbish I am at FIFA now, which is a fantastic resolution. Yeah,
it's very hard.
It's changed a lot.
You have to be really technically good at it. Like I hadn't played a computer game in a few years or whatever, and I played FIFA recently, and like you don't get away with any mistakes. You just have to have perfect like control and direction the whole time. And I felt really old. I was like, God, I'm terrible at this.
So you've been outplayed by your young fella Richie, yeah?
Easily outplayed. 7.
Jesus.
Can you find the time to re-hone your skills and get yourself back to the level?
It's a case of getting home from here at like 11, 12 at night, clicking on the Xbox and having a couple of
sneaky 2 hours
games, putting in the practice.
And take him on tomorrow.
And then Saturday comes around and I'm beating him 13-2.
He'll think he's been hustled.
So you know the way like nowadays you have to get your kids to go out and play football and practice and get exercise. Richie's like, no son, I am practicing 2 hours a night to beat you at FIFA, and I know you're 7.
When you're not playing the Xbox, Richie, over the next few weeks, is there something that you would like to see happen in the sporting year that is 2019?
What I'd like to see happen and what will actually happen are two
Okay, well give us one of each
things. Then. What I'd like to see happen would be for Bows to be contenders in the SSE Electricity Premier Division this season. Right. The fact that we're cobbling together a squad at the moment suggests that we might necessarily be up there.
You have Dara Lee.
We do, for now, yeah. Attracting interest from all sorts, including the MLS.
So what about something that you'd like to see happen that may happen?
I don't know. I'd like to see a new league winner. I'd like to see Liverpool or Tottenham win the league, the Premier League, cross-channel. I think it'd be nice to have a change, something that isn't just resetting to Chelsea every couple of years, and something that isn't Manchester City running away with it by about 20-odd points. So a new league winner.
If Liverpool or Tottenham were to win the Premier League, is that 5 different winners in 6 seasons?
Something like that. Yeah.
2 Manchester clubs, Liverpool, Leicester and Chelsea, which is unprecedented in terms of modern European football, the top 5 leagues over the last 10, 15, 20 years.
There won't be anybody that comes close, really.
No, there wouldn't be.
The dominance of Juventus, Bayern Munich's hegemony in Germany, like, it just doesn't happen.
Dundalk and Cork.
Johnny, what would you like to see happen that might be extraordinary and that might be a little more predictable?
I'd like to see Galway recapture the hurling title. I think that's quite feasible. I believe they're hard at it, getting ready for next year, getting ready for the new season, obviously. That'd be my most, I suppose, realistic aim. I'd like to see Galway United get promoted to Premier Division, but it's not looking the May West. They're short of cash, cobbling together, as well as Richie said, just cobbling together a young team and probably falling away a bit. I'd like to see Dundalk and the other Irish clubs do very well in Europe this year. Got a great kick out of Dundalk in 2016. Vinnie Perth is obviously coming in. I'm not sure how they'll get on after Stephen Kenny, and I suppose I'd like to see Ireland actually the Irish international team actually play football again, which hasn't happened since Mick McCarthy was last in charge.
Right.
Really.
Okay, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see from March onwards how the Irish team going. Personally, I want to see Manchester City win tomorrow night because I'm tired of the last 2 seasons have been a write-off. Chelsea won, 10 in a row? City won nearly 15 in a row.
Leicester were winners from miles out as well.
But at least, going into April, that was still really in the mix.
It was a question of whether or not to do it, but if you looked at if it was any other team with the lead and the longevity that Leicester had,
but it wasn't. It was Leicester. I mean, the Chelsea-Tottenham game, the 2-2 with all the shenanigans that went on towards the end of that, that was the second to last game, max third to last game. So it was still in the mix going to the end, where Liverpool win tomorrow night. I know we have the biggest and best games live and off the ball every Sunday afternoon. But the Premier League title race is done.
I don't know. I think he could be in Newcastle territory. They could team or two good. With a lot of January still to go, they could have that Rodney Marsh, Tino Asprilla signing, who comes in and absolutely upsets everything just by their very nature being there.
It's completely it's so insane though how it changed so quickly.
It's incredible. 3 weeks ago, this was the best Premier League team in history we're discussing in Manchester City.
It's unfair. They're the Dublin of the Premier League. How is anybody ever going to beat them? And suddenly they beat themselves.
They're just
suddenly there's a 10-point gap nearly. We're at the cusp potentially of a 10-point gap.
It really is astonishing.
It's astonishing stuff.
I was saying to Jay Healy earlier on when he was presenting for Ivan, like in the last 10 games, City have kept 1 clean sheet in that same period of time, which I think includes the Champions League game as well. Liverpool kept 6.
Yeah.
And that'll tell you what it's been built on, really.
They're not conceding goals. Plenty of already in touch on social media and on our text line 53106. Ronan of Longford says, just imagine how disappointed Richie's kid is that his old man isn't the invincible genius he always thought he was. I, myself, remember being gutted when I found out I was way better at real-life football than my father.
I was always probably better at real football than my dad, so, I'm not speaking out of the dead there, just probably was. He wasn't a soccer man at all, but yeah. But I think my son's probably disappointed me for wholly different reasons.
You're just out of practice. You just need a little bit of time in front of the console.
Those 2 hours every night, Dave, they're going to stand to me.
Yeah, they will. Richie's on, till midnight tonight?
Midnight tonight, Dave.
Still sitting in Tom's seat for another little while.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you play against players online or do you play against computers?
Jesus, no. I'm not a nerd.
Is that not what it's all about now, though? That's the whole point of it.
It is, yeah, but who'd do that, like?
Everyone. It's the biggest...
Johnny, if everybody was to jump off a cliff, would you do the same?
Well,
that's how Brexit happened.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't. Why were they jumping off, though? Because they all just idiots.
Racism.
We're getting into dangerous territory here.
But no, e-gaming is becoming so big, it's insane.
It's been big for a long time.
E-gaming is
becoming extreme, like massive. It's like
going to be an Olympic sport.
It's going to be an Olympic sport,
It's going to be an Olympic sport within our lifetime. Playing computer games, playing FIFA, for one, is going to be an Olympic sport within our lifetimes.
And yet dart isn't an Olympic sport.
That's the biggest crime of it. That is the biggest crime.
Absolutely.
The
fact that Michael van Gerwen does not get to be an Olympian, yet some nerd from Ohio playing World of Warcraft gets to march in the opening ceremony.
The BDO was about to start.
Yeah, it is.
The BDO existed. It starts this Saturday. Who's the defending champion?
God knows. It's one for the purists.
Ted Hankey, maybe.
10 years ago. Welcome to 2006. Garrett says, the first time I tried Pro Evo, having only played the likes of FIFA 94, I was like a monkey attempting to fly a rocket into space. They are that
Pro
different.
Evo is like the long division.
Yeah, it's really, really demanding.
I was only ever a Pro Evo man. Never really played FIFA at all, to be honest.
Says so much about you, to be honest with you, Dave.
Good stuff.
No comment.
Where are we starting?
We'll start with tonight's Premier League action. Manchester United can further close the gap on the Premier League's top 4 tonight. They'll look to make it 4 wins from as many games under temporary boss Ole Gunnar Solskjaer when they go to Newcastle tonight. The teams are in for this one. Martin Dubravka starts in goal for Newcastle. Back 4 of DeAndre Yedlin, Fabian Schär, Jamal Lascelles and Paul Dummett. In midfield, Isaac Hayden, Mo Diame, Christian Atsu and Matt Ritchie, with Ayoze Perez and Salomon Rondon leading the line. For United, it's David De Gea in goal, Antonio Valencia, Victor Lindelof, Phil Jones and Luke Shaw as their back 4. The midfield trio of Ander Herrera, Nemanja Matic and Paul Pogba, and Juan Mata and Marcus Rashford are either side of Anthony Martial. Solskjaer has been asked about the influence of ex-United manager Alex Ferguson, who visited the United training ground this week.
Well, last week or so is the last, I've had him for 15 years, so obviously he's influenced me more in the 15 years before than he's done the last week. but obviously I do keep him informed, and he did pay us a visit yesterday, and I think he enjoyed his time at the training ground, and we had a nice few chats, us and the staff, and he encouraged us. He knows that we are, the staff I've got it's Man United through and through, and he knows that we're going to do whatever we can up to the last second that we're here. We're going to do everything we can for us, and Man United do as best as we can.
Are you buying into they're back, or are you're just saying they're playing pretty bad teams?
I don't think anybody is saying
both.
They're back.
They're a lot better.
They're an awful lot better. I was at Old Trafford on Sunday afternoon, and
they're actually playing football.
But even walking down to the ground, there's a difference in the feeling around the place. There's people, I know it sounds so cliched, but people have a smile on their faces going into the stadium. I don't think we can underestimate how toxic the Mourinho reign was towards the final couple of months.
It was, wasn't it?
And I'm not just talking about the feeling from the players and from the management setup, but just right through the club, apparently, from the people who they deal with on a daily basis. Covering the games, everyone's in better form. The journalists are in better form. Obviously, press conference with Gunnar Solskjaer is a lot less fiery than it would have been with Mourinho. Let's see if things were to change, if the pressure becomes a bit much for Solskjaer if they start to lose a couple of games. But I think the start obviously could not have been better. Even looking at the team tonight, one change was going to be enforced because Eric Bailly was suspended for that crazy tackle he put in against Bournemouth at the weekend. But Ashley Young had a pretty good game. He's been left out tonight, dropped to the bench. Antonio Valenti's coming in. He's talked about giving as many people as he possibly can an opportunity. And he is doing that. I would expect Lukaku to start soon. Alexis Sanchez is on the bench. Fred's on the bench. Everybody's getting a roll of the dice.
It's a handy time to look at people
starting.
When you consider that they have that many games in the Premier League, and they've also got the Cup game coming up this weekend. So you kind of have a nice reason to rotate the squad and have a look at everybody.
Yeah. The difference in the player, everyone's speaking about Pogba, but Matic looks so much better at the weekend. Matic, I felt,
which is crazy because
so disappointing.
Because Matic is the stereotypical Mourinho
player, but you could just see there was just this almost cloud hanging over them all. And I was astonished every time I watched Man United how often Matic would give the ball away, which he never used to do, and he was pinging it all over the place in the game. I keep saying the game the other day because I actually can't remember what day of the week it is anymore. Somebody said to me, "Did you get the paper on Sunday?" And I was like,
"What day was Sunday?"
What? Sunday? Oh, did I? What? Today? And I was like, granted it. Anyway.
It is that time of year where one day just is enmeshed with the next.
Yeah.
It's everything he's saying. His match programme notes before the Bournemouth game were very interesting. Talks about the culture of the club, talks about the fans being the best fans in the world, talks about the history of the club, about the way that they want to play, that there's a certain way United teams should be playing. He ticked every box that a manager who would like the job on a permanent basis should be ticking. And then obviously he's ticking the boxes in terms of what's happening with the games as well. It's very hard to get carried away if you are a United fan, and I know some of them are, but to say that they're back is very premature because we'll have to see them take on Paris Saint-Germain, Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, Tottenham. Tottenham being the most, the one that's looming largest. That's in a couple of weeks' time. I think January 13th that game is. So if they play as well in those games and they're scoring goals, I think he desperately wants a clean sheet because they have yet to keep one since he's arrived. They've only won at Old Trafford all season in the Premier League, which is
working
far
on corners and all that.
Yeah, now he's got a back four that certainly a back two and the two central defenders that he's going to have to work with now because Smalling's still a couple of weeks away from fitness. Eric Bailly is going to be suspended for a couple of games. So Jones and Lindelof are the two guys he will have to deal with. But look, if they go and put another 3 or 4 past Newcastle tonight and maybe Chelsea were to drop a couple of points, suddenly the top 4 isn't such a ludicrous possibility given that they were 11 points.
Yeah, Champions League isn't as ludicrous as people would think because you can kind of half fluke your way into the last 4 and then you don't know what's going to happen, and they're a bit of a blank canvas in terms of their attacking players. If Pogba actually starts playing, which he is, they have the potential to go very well. I think Europe is very open, bar Man City. Man City are still the outstanding team, but Europe is fairly open. You could fluke your way into the last 4, and the top 4 is not out of the question either.
No, it wouldn't be. And it was interesting seeing Romelu Lukaku come off the bench. And if anyone watched the United game at the weekend, do get in touch and give us your thoughts. He came on in a frenzy, with a massive point to prove because he's been off for a couple of weeks on compassionate leave. Since then, the manager's lost his job. United have won 3 from 3 and they've scored 12 goals, and he hasn't been involved at all. And he looks like a guy who's also now worried that he is no longer top dog in terms of the centre forwards of the club. He made a couple of big tackles. He chased around. He obviously got his goal. And I think Romelu Lukaku is already acknowledging that he has to work an awful lot harder than he was doing under Jose Mourinho if he's going to get into a Solskjaer team. The Feeder writes on text, the Feeder? Interesting. I remember my godson was 3-0 up at FIFA and was giving me stick. I came back, beat him 4-3, he started crying. His mother came in and reminded me he was only 8. Screw that. Yeah. If he's giving you stick at 3-0 up, he should be able to take it when he goes down 4-3.
What age is he again?
Jesus,
8 years old.
Yeah. Again, another insight into the life of David McIntyre.
Not having that. Yeah. The Feeder was absolutely
giving stick
right.
back to 8-year-olds. The Dave McIntyre way.
8-year-olds did.
Dave says, lads, don't start with this dart shite. It's not and never will be a sport. Standing looking at a circle on the wall is not a sport.
Who said that?
There's more effort involved in commentating. Says, oh no, sorry, it's an anonymous text aimed at me.
Of course it is. Of course it's anonymous. Put your name to it. That's gutless.
I'm not getting into the whole start of sport. We do this in January
sport.
Every year. There are other sports that are acknowledged as being sports that require less effort than darts. I'm talking snooker, for example. And I see snooker as being a sport. You could say golf. I'm not going to get into this.
You just can't be so obese, though, if you're a snooker player as a darts player, and that it's just your stretching ability is
body
just...
shaming.
I can think
a lot of them are in very bad shape.
I can think of a couple of guys that look like darts players that have won golf majors in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay? So, I'm not saying that is the QED end of the argument. It's just a mitigating factor. Richie, please carry on.
Looks like a darts player. It's so sizes.
You only use the darts.
Yeah, I'm blind in one eye, so I can't see. Chelsea can move themselves to within a point.
That gives you an excuse in FIFA as well.
It gives me an excuse of bloody everything.
Yeah.
Chelsea can move themselves to within a point of Manchester City and 2 points of Tottenham with victory at home to Southampton tonight. For Chelsea, Eden Hazard starts for them. Ross Barkley's in midfield as well. Elsewhere, 2 of the bottom 3 meet at the John Smiths with Huddersfield taking on Burnley, for whom Robbie Brady, Jeff Hendrick and Kevin Long all start on the bench. Bournemouth's game with Watford has been delayed until 8. It was due to be 7:45. It's after fire crews attended an incident at the Vitality there. West Ham take on Brighton with Andy Carroll making a first start for the hosts this year. Samir Nasri, the recent signing, is on the bench, and Shane Duffy starting for Brighton, while Matt Doherty starts for a Wolves side that entertain Crystal Palace. Doubling back to Chelsea, and they today completed the €64 million signing of Christian Pulisic from Borussia Dortmund. The United States winger won't arrive at Stamford Bridge, though, until the summer. Liverpool and Arsenal were among the clubs said to have been interested in signing the 20-year-old, who says it's a privilege to join a legendary club like Chelsea. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp, ex of Dortmund of course, was asked today for his thoughts on the Pulisic deal.
He's a good player. Know him for a while, how everybody knows probably, and followed him. So good signing for Chelsea. But good deal, good deal as well. So Dortmund can keep him, and Chelsea gets him next year. So you will see another really skilled boy playing in England. Good.
Yeah, we're going to be talking to Rob Daly, who is very much an expert on the Bundesliga, on the details around this deal, what it means for both Chelsea and for Borussia Dortmund. But
Dortmund have made off like bandits here.
It's a lot of money to spend on a 20-year-old who has only got maybe 50-odd Bundesliga appearances under his belt.
He's played
and his
second
contract
fiddle.
was expiring in 18 months' time.
And he's played second fiddle to Jadon Sancho so far this season.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to get Rob's thoughts on that. If you are familiar with the Bundesliga or indeed the potential brilliance of Pulisic, do let us know on 53106, and everywhere else you can contact us.
Yeah, to a game you have live on the show tomorrow night. Kevin De Bruyne trained with Manchester City ahead of their meeting with Liverpool at the Etihad. The Belgian midfielder missed Saturday's win away to Southampton, having only made a first league start of an injury-plagued season on St Stephen's Day, and De Bruyne will be assessed tomorrow morning ahead of the game at the Etihad. Meanwhile, Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp has confirmed that James Milner is fit to face City, having missed the last 2 games through injury. City have kept, as you mentioned, only 1 clean sheet in the last 10 games, and Liverpool keeping 6 during that same time. And Pep Guardiola was asked today if he's bothered by that record.
Always I say the same in that we have to see how many chances we concede. So we are the second team in Europe right now with more chances we create. So we are not precise enough on that. And always there are consequences or related about the chances we create, the chances we concede. We concede few. That is the feeling I have. We don't create too much, but the boxes are the main important thing. And of course, the last game we concede more goals than usual, but the chances we create, they are not too much.
It's not very often in my life I've been jealous of Nathan Murphy, but I am right now, because that game is live and exclusive and off the ball tomorrow night. Nathan's going to be in the commentary box at the Etihad Stadium for Man City Liverpool. He's going to be joined by John Walters, so do tune in for that. It's potential to be an absolute classic. Aaron says the wheels are going to come off the United wagon tonight. Solskjaer seems a bit banality heavy. and I suspect his patter will sound a bit hollow after a few poor results. That's a very well constructed text from Aaron.
Newcastle are poor though. I mean, it's basically a game that they'll be fairly comfortable in much of the game. You just imagine they win.
Yeah, the levels of the ball United is whether or not they can actually break Newcastle down is another story.
The BDO defending champion, Glenn Durant. Could have been here till next Christmas and I wouldn't have got that. Nickname Duzza.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a rubbish nickname.
Well, it must mean something. I don't know what it is on paper.
It's probably just short for Durant, but anyway.
Rick Welch, who his legendary status is massaged ever further because he's coming back for season number 17.
He is indeed. He's starting tonight for Waterford against Cork in the Munster Hurling League, throwing a Mallow at 7:30. And whether or not to continue starting captain Seamus Coleman could be Mick McCarthy's first selection headache upon his return to the Republic of Ireland hot seat. Coleman's endured a patchy season for Everton form-wise and was dropped to the bench by Marco Silva for yesterday's 1-0 defeat at home to Leicester. Dominic King covers the Merseyside beat for the Daily Mail and told OTB AM this morning that Coleman's facing into a defining couple of weeks of his season.
It's been a bit mix and match at the minute with Everton. At the minute, you don't really know what Marco Silva's going to do from one game to the next. And they're a team in a sort of I'm not going to say like a sort of spiral of lacking confidence, but the last month has been dreadful. The performances haven't been good, and he's looking for ideas to try and make things happen a bit better for them. They were awful yesterday. They didn't deserve anything from the match. And I don't know whether they've had 4 games in 10 days, and maybe Seamus was feeling the effects of that. I think all will become apparent when they play Bournemouth in the next Premier League game. I think he'll make changes against Lincoln in the FA Cup on Saturday, but until we see them again in the Premier League, I don't know what we could say, whether he's going to revert to a back 4, whether 3 at the back is going to be the way to go, because he's taken Yerry Mina in and out, so there's nothing settled at the minute, and that's what he really needs to do.
Yeah, sorry, Richard, I jumped forward one story on you there, and that is a very interesting thing on Seamus Coleman. He just seems to be part of an Everton team that is incredibly low in confidence. The manager seems to be losing a bit of confidence, and with him still maybe finding his feet in terms of being 100% happy with the leg and his mindset and everything that goes with being sharp and fit and able to play your best, it's probably no surprise.
Yeah, form-wise he hasn't been great so far this season. Doherty,
but the team itself are struggling.
Well, Dominic touched on it there. They've been chopping and changing so much. They haven't had this settled back 4, and whether or not they're going to have a back 3 remains to be seen. Like, that doesn't help somebody who you say is like, I don't think Coleman was struggling for confidence, and I don't think he was worrying about the leg. I think he came back absolutely raring to go and fully fit. I think that element of doubt has been put into his mind by his manager, and that's not a good place to be if you're a player.
Doherty's pass as well for the 3rd goal on what day was it again? On Saturday? Yeah, it was Saturday. He's so much quality, that lad. I think you can't. I don't think you can play Doherty left back. I think Doherty really has to play in that Irish team.
You put them both in the team, don't you? You put one at right back and one at right wing if we're playing 4 at the back. You put one on the right side of a back 3 and one on right wing back. If we do not have enough Premier League players to be leaving one of those 2 on the bench, whether you shoehorn Doherty in on the left-hand side, they both have to play.
I don't know, did they have to play? I don't think Seamus Coleman's entitled to be an automatic starter for Ireland. I don't think that. Definitely.
You're putting Cyrus Christie in the team ahead of him?
I'd possibly play him right back and play a conventional winger on the right. I might play Doherty right back and just have an attacking right back. Coleman's definitely regressed. Like, no doubt, he's having a very, very average season, and his pace, understandably, is probably just not quite what it was. He had a horrific injury, and he's 30, he's 31 obviously this year. He's gone into a place where he's just going to regress naturally, and no way is he entitled to automatic pick selection. Like, Doherty's had an outstanding season, Coleman's had a patchy season at best.
Well, I think the last thing McCarthy wants, though, heading into this second tenure, is another Dennis Irwin situation where he's essentially saying to Seamus Coleman, I know, you have to prove it to me.
Do you remember that?
I don't think Mick's going to make that same mistake somehow, and I think there's enough credit in the Seamus Coleman bank. He is the team captain to be given.
There's no such thing as credit, though. Like,
I would disagree.
You're either good enough to start or you're not, and he's not definitely good enough to start. If you have him or Doherty right back, Doherty 100% should be the right back, even if it's a right back, conventional right back. Your point is that he can play both of them, which is fair enough, but Doherty over Coleman any day of the week at the moment.
I've seen more than enough from Doherty going forward to tell me that he can play in a more advanced role from the start of a game. And I would love to see Coleman and Doherty playing ahead of each other or behind each other. Even maybe flip it. And
I think he might
put
do
Seamus
that.
Coleman on the right-hand side and allow him maybe a little more freedom and a little less pressure when it comes to his defensive duties. And who better to cover a right full back than a full back? I know we've had these issues over the years where there would have been some Jack Charlton teams that started with 5 or 6 full backs.
They did.
I think it started with about 6 or 7 at some stage.
We're not going to end up in that position, but just to give you some details on one of our Off the Ball roadshows that we have coming up, it's Wednesday the 16th of January. We're going to be live from Garryowen FC for the first Off the Ball roadshow of the year. It's in association with Heineken Rugby Club. We'll be previewing Munster's 6th-round Heineken Champions Cup tie with Exeter that weekend. And it will be in the company of some Garryowen, Ireland and Lions legends, including Eddie O'Sullivan, Tony Ward and some more very special guests, which we will be announcing over the next few days. If you want to get there as well, get onto offtheball.com/events. That's just gone live now, so the tickets are free but limited. So they're available now. Do get there sharpish if you want to get your hands on some tickets. It's the latest Off the Ball roadshow in association with Heineken Rugby Club. Declan Arklow says those players at United were on strike in all but name. First game after Jose's gone and they suddenly outrun a team for the first time. They should be fined. Well, there's a case of the you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Should give their wages to soldiers, Dave. That's what they should do.
Whatever you do, don't outrun a team, because that's what you weren't doing under Jose, and that will just tell us that you're all a bunch of spineless you-know-whats who just went on strike on their manager.
We don't know what happened, but like the likes of Pogba was a fraud during the like some of his performances this season were so unbecoming of a professional that it was a disgrace. And the one thing about Roy Keane that I agree with, regardless of what is going on all week, put in 90 minutes of a shift, because the fans deserve that and the club deserves that, whether or not you hate the manager. Yeah, there was a real element, I think, of dishonesty in some of these performances, but clearly Solskjaer has lifted the gloom and he has taken. But you would have, or I would have. Do you know what I mean? It was just putting anyone in there and it'll improve in the interim anyway. Well, it was toxic, it was poisonous, and you've got a manager that has pretty much hung every member of the first team squad out to dry publicly at some stage. It's no surprise that sooner or later they wanted to see the back of him and they couldn't bring themselves to play for them. Yes, there's a lack of a professionalism in that. Maybe players of a bygone era would look at that and they would feel sick. But I'm sure if you speak to some of these players, they'll be able to come up with a couple of guys in their dressing rooms over the years, back in the 70s and 80s, that down tools for whatever reason. I don't think that every single player that played in that era were, the font of professionalism. I think that's looking back with rose-tinted glasses. Yeah, no, I agree. Maybe more of an issue in the modern game. Yeah, but
there's more of an issue in the modern game because the idea of sacking a manager seems to be the solution to cure a team's form problems, whereas in the past it wasn't necessarily the be-all and end-all as regards steering the ship. And some players are bigger than the team. Yeah, well, we're going to get into that in a bit more detail with Pat and Evan after the break. Last couple of stories, Rich. Yeah, Ministers Shane Ross and Brendan Griffin have thrown their weight behind Sport Ireland's calls for the World Anti-Doping Agency to take a firm stance against Russia. It follows Russia missing a deadline to provide crucial anti-doping data from a Moscow laboratory. Sport Ireland, one of 16 anti-doping organisations to express their frustrations at the non-compliance by Russia to the terms of their reinstatement by WADA. Yesterday, WADA chief Craig Reedy said he'd been left bitterly disappointed by Russia not meeting the deadline, while Sport Ireland chief executive John Tracy also rebuked IOC president Thomas Bach for his deeply unhelpful comments, which claimed Russia would not be suspended from next year's Summer Olympics in Tokyo should they not improve their RUSADA record. And Rory McIlroy says he's done his time on the European Tour and is looking forward to focusing on the PGA Tour this season. The Northern Irishman says there's a better way of life in America and that there's better money and ranking points on offer on the PGA Tour. McIlroy tees off his 2019 campaign at the Tournament of Champions in Hawaii tomorrow and is expected to play just 4 times in Europe later this year, something which could end his hopes of Ryder Cup captaincy further down the line in his career. And Derry City have confirmed the signings of 3 more players ahead of the 2019 season. Patrick McLean, brother of James, and Kieran Harkin both returned to the Brandywell following respective spells at Sligo Rovers and Coleraine, while striker David Parkhouse joins on a 6-month loan deal from the English Championship side Sheffield United. And sticking in that part of England, Sheffield Wednesday have confirmed the appointment of Steve Bruce as their new permanent manager. However, the former Aston Villa and Wigan boss won't take the reins at Hillsborough until February 1st due to a prior personal commitment, he says. Instead, Steve Agnew and Stephen Clements will take temporary charge of Wednesday for the duration of January. Wednesday sits 16th in the championship table and sacked Jos Luhai 4 days before Christmas. It's an interesting one. How many managers have managed both clubs in the Steel City? It's very few. It's him and Danny Wilson are the most recent. Danny Wilson, yeah. Good shout. Yeah. That's you done, Rich? That's me done.
Nice one. Johnny and myself will be chatting with Nathan later as part of the football show as we preview tomorrow night's live commentary on Off the Ball, Man City against Liverpool. But next up, we're going to get into the team news around the 8 o'clock and 7:45 kickoffs, and we're going to be joined by Pat Nevin.
Off the Ball on News Talk. Leaders' Questions with Ger Gilroy and Stuart Lancaster, featuring leaders from the world of sport.
Getting out there and telling your story and being brave enough